Welcome into Talk Illini, part of Orange and Blue News of the On3 Network. Me and Sunny here once again talking about the Illinois versus UConn Final Four matchup. Got a lot to get into about some advantages that Illinois has in this one, and so to show that we're not homers too much, some disadvantages for Illinois as well, some things that they're going to have to overcome. We'll talk about if we think Illinois can overcome them. This is going to be a very interesting conversation, a lot to look forward to, and a lot to be on the lookout for as well in this situation. Sonny, your excitement level is still sky high for the Final Four right now?
This is the longest week of my life, JR. It's one of those, I feel like I go to bed, I wake up in the morning, and it's still 4 more days. But it's right around the corner at this point. I feel like I've watched the previous Illinois-UConn game already 3-4 times, even though I know that none of that matters because these are two completely different teams. But, I could be doing other things, right? I could be scouring transfer portal options because my team is already out right now. So, it's like I'm trying to soak things in and just enjoy the moment, as I suggest all Illini fans do.
Yeah, as somebody who covers the Big Ten on my other channel, the Big Ten Huddle, I am, in a little bit of both of it. I'm like covering Illinois and Michigan in the Final Four, and then I'm also talking about teams like Wisconsin and Ohio State that have been, in the transfer portal for weeks now. So it's a little bit of everything. Sonny, before we get started, you do have a code for the NIL store. Tell people about it.
Absolutely. So I got into contact with the NIL store. Look, Illini fans, we're spending money on merch. If you're going to Indy, you're going to buy yourself a crew neck, a hoodie, a hat, whatever it might be. Use the code Sunny15 and you're going to get 15% off of your purchase. It's a no-brainer. You're going to buy the merch anyway. You're going to get 15% off, and you get to support this show because they'll know that you're coming from us. So definitely, when you're buying your Illini gear, make sure you use the code Sunny15 at nil.store. And
There you go. All right, Sonny, let's get into the advantages and the disadvantage. And I'll take the easy advantage first. I feel like it's the advantage that everybody knows about and everybody talks about with Illinois, but it's fine. We got to bring it up. And it's the size as advantage that Illinois has in this one. Illinois is obviously a team that has the best size in the nation of all the teams. UConn has some pretty good size of their own as well, but they are actually the smallest of all of the remaining Final Four teams. They rank 30th in the country. So a lot to consider there with size and things like that. But Illinois holds a huge advantage in that area. And Kylan Boswell is the shortest starter on this team at 6'2". But then you have guys like Keaton Wagler at 6'7". You have Tomislav Ivisic, David Mirkovic, both 7-footers plus in this situation. And so even though UConn might have some guys like Tarris Reed that maybe have a little bit more bump to them, and we'll get to that and the disadvantages, Illinois has a massive advantage here when it comes to size, length, all the stuff like that for Illinois to be able to combat UConn's offense. And UConn is a team that struggled with some turnovers this season, and Illinois has actually done better with getting into passing lanes and stuff like that here in the NCAA tournament. It's been one of the reasons why Illinois has had some better defense. They don't always cause turnovers, but they are able to make the other team's offense just kind of get out of rhythm. And it always felt like this was something that Illinois' defense needed, and it looks like Cam Crocker is bringing that more to the defense here in the NCAA tournament. So I'm not necessarily predicting they're going to get a bunch of turnovers because of their size, but I do think we could see them disrupt the UConn offense and give them some issues. Sonny, any thoughts on that? And then give us your advantage.
Yeah, no, I mean, size has been an advantage for Illinois in every game this year. And so why stop now? It's not just the size on the defense, but I love the fact that if you can get Tommy continuing to play the way he has all tournament long, and you can have him hit maybe 1 or 2 3-pointers in that first half, and then all of a sudden a guy like Tarris Reed Jr. is going to have to come out to the perimeter and guard him, well, then that takes him away from grabbing those easy rebounds down low. And so I think the fact that we can offer multiple guys at 7 foot plus, Merck is 6'9", and stretch them out. I think that's going to be one of the key parts to Illinois coming out victorious on Saturday. Speaking of, one of the advantages that I see is just how well this team is playing in the sense of all the individuals. Obviously, collectively, Illinois has won by double digits in each round so far, but you've got Andrei Stojakovic playing really well. Of course, you have Keaton and David playing well, but they've been playing well for most of the season. But again, Andrej Stojakovic is playing well. Tomislav Ivisic is playing like the Tomislav Ivisic we expected all season long. This is going to be one of those games where I think UConn, Dan Hurley is the type of guy who's he doesn't mind if one guy beats you. And I wouldn't be surprised if he goes with that same sort of strategy on Saturday. Maybe it's Andrej Stojakovic, who he'll continue to let go to the rim and try to get easy buckets, hoping collectively the other guys don't win. But with Illinois, they've got 2, 3, 4 other guys who are capable of scoring 20 points on any given night. So when you do have that sort of strategy, it's easy to do when one team has one All-American and role players surrounding him. Against Illinois, it's tough. You can try to shut Keaton Wagler down, but then Andrej Stojakovic could go for 20 and David Mirkovic could go for 17, or vice versa. And so if there's one advantage I do like when I look at the rosters and statistics is the multitude of weapons that Illinois is coming into this matchup with.
I totally agree. And I think that Illinois has the best player in this game, which is always a talking point as well, who is Keaton Wagler. And I think that, when you have that type of advantage coming in, and the other piece of that too is, we talked about it a little, or I talked about it a little bit. And that after that UConn game, I said, Keaton Wagler is the best player on the court, but he can't play like a freshman. Well, good news. He hasn't played like a freshman all season long. We have seen a little bit of the freshman stuff from the Boozer twins at Duke, and that, obviously was a detriment there at the end of the game against UConn there, but we haven't seen that all season from Keaton Wagler. So as long as we continue to not see it in this game, that bodes really well for the Illini. All right, we can't just end it on 2 disadvantages. So I do have to bring up one of my disadvantages, and my disadvantage here, my first one, Sonny, is that UConn's defense is better and has been better than Illinois' all season long. Now, do you want to say that they've been better in the NCAA tournament? I don't know if that is the case. So definitely Illinois is playing some better defense here in the tournament, but UConn has had more consistency. Dan Hurley has had more consistency as a coach with his defenses than Brad Underwood has. So things are looking better for Illinois right now, but you still look at 5+ blocks per game, almost 7 steals per game for UConn. Now that does come with its disadvantages, right? You can foul more, and that can obviously affect things for them. But I look at this UConn team and how they close out on shooters, their ability to block and get steals, like I said, as well. And quite frankly, Illinois shot their worst 3-point percentage of the year against Iowa. Their second worst 3-point percentage of the year was against UConn back in November. Now, as we said before, these are 2 totally different teams. I don't expect, Illinois to shoot 20% from 3 or anything like that again, but it's definitely something that need to think of. And Illinois, if they do get in trouble shooting from 3, they could always convert back to what they've done before, which is just chuck up a whole bunch of shots. And hopefully they don't do that. If they do, I'll get pretty nervous, but that's my first disadvantage. Sonny, am I being too hard on Illinois here?
No, not at all. I think this is why I'm fearful of going up against a guy like Dan Hurley, because I do think he's going to come up with some sort of game plan. Now, whether it is what I mentioned earlier, whether he's like, hey, I'll let one guy beat us, but I'm going to collectively try to shut the other 4 down, I don't know. But when it comes to defense, when it comes to UConn, I know the consistency is going to be there. They might not be as good defensively as a team like Houston, but they've got the offensive firepower to make up for it. So I think that's another thing that we are going to keep in mind. This is not one of those games where, as you mentioned, Illinois can shoot 3 for 17. This is going to be a game where Illinois has got to finally be hitting their shots, like they did against VCU or Penn in that opening round, and that's what's going to give them the best opportunity at winning. JR, if I'm going to talk about my disadvantage, and I'll be honest, this one I am absolutely 100% fearful of, is us Illini fans, as we've enjoyed the ride of this season, the ups and the downs. And clearly one of the negative aspects of the season has been how the Illini have closed close games. So much so when reporters ask Brad questions about it, he shuts it down immediately. It's kind of like a sensitive topic when it comes to the Illini. We saw what UConn just did against Duke. Down 19 points, making it all the way back down 2 with 10 seconds left, obviously stealing the inbounds, making that 3-point shot. I've said this seemingly every round so far, that I'm going to be a little bit nervous if there's a really close game that Illinois is playing in at the end of the game. We haven't had that yet. Illinois has been able to, in the second halves of games, just stretch out their lead so that it never really gets to that point. But again, it's going to happen at some point, and UConn is as good of a team as you're going to face in the tournament. And I can see it being a, maybe 4 or 5 point game one way or the other with just a couple minutes left. And then that's where the nerves kick in. That's where we observe, is Illinois able to execute the way they kind of haven't in previous games? But if I'm being honest here, like, I want to give them more credit than that. They've struggled on defense all the entire regular season, and they've stepped it up when it comes to postseason. If they're able to close down a close game against UConn on Saturday, then again, you just have to continue to give them the benefit of the doubt. That's a team that continues to keep trying. They don't give up, and they're getting better. And maybe this is one of the last tests that they have to prove on the way to win a national championship, that they can close games down.
Very true. Yeah, I think that's a great point, and I totally agree with it. We'll get back to the positives here and give another advantage for Illinois. My second advantage for Illinois, again, a little bit of low-hanging fruit here, but I do think that it's something that has to be mentioned when you talk about this game. And since I just talked about UConn's defense, I just got to talk about Illinois' offense. Now, Illinois doesn't have always the most traditional efficient offense with like 3-point shooting percentages and stuff like that. Illinois ranks outside the top 100 in the nation in 3-point percentage, but they are 22nd in the nation in 2-point percentage, and that's very evident because of how this team gets the offensive rebounds. It's something that I brought up before. I do think that this Illinois team is going to be able to get offensive rebounds. I think that if you take care of Tarris Reed down low, you have a good opportunity to make this happen. And with the way that Illinois is crashing the boards and also making sure that other teams don't get out in transition against them, that's going to be a huge aspect of this game. So even if Illinois is not shooting the best 3-point percentage, I think they still need to shoot better than 20%. But even if they're not shooting the best 3-point percentage, I still think this is a team that has been a huge difference for Brad Underwood, that he doesn't have to have the amazing 3-point shooting percentage. He has guys down low that can bang, that can get offensive rebounds, and UConn is nearly 100th. They are 87th in offensive rebounding percentage allowed on KenPom. So this is a good matchup here that Illinois has. If they can take advantage of it, then I like Illinois' chances in this one.
Yeah, I'm really looking forward to the matchup of, I mentioned Dan Hurley already, but also with Tyler Underwood. He's game planning. Hey, if plan A doesn't work, what is plan B? What is plan C? Are they able to throw it down low to Tommy and get him going, get a couple nice jump hook shots like they did in the second half against Iowa? Because I think if the inside shots are falling, then all of a sudden UConn becomes all the more vulnerable, because they're going to have to leave a guy like Ben Humrickhouse and Jake Davis wide open for 3-point shots. And those are the guys you want shooting it. Jake Davis is arguably your best 3-point shooter. You get him going, that arena is going to be filled with Illini fans. It's a 120-mile drive from Champaign to Indianapolis. They're just going to be looking for reasons to get loud. And they paid a lot of money to be there, and so they're going to get their money's worth. And they can get their money's worth. Jake Davis corner 3, that's been one of our calling cards all season long. And so, yeah, just a chess match that's going to happen between that Illini offense and what Dan Hurley is going to come up with on defense, I think is going to be one of the things I'm looking forward to most this game.
For sure. All right. Last disadvantage here for me, and then we'll get to your final disadvantage, Sonny. I know I just talked well about the offensive rebounding for Illinois, and I do still think that there is an advantage there. But I also think Tarris Reed has been an absolute monster down low against teams in the NCAA tournament. Now, I do not think that he has faced a team with the size. I know he's not faced a team with the size and some stuff like that down low. Duke is a pretty tall and, very tall team and has some good height. I think they're top 5 up there in height as well, but they do not rebound the ball as well as this Illinois team does. So it's not so much I'm concerned about rebounding. I'm just concerned about the matchup with Tarris Reed. What do they do in this situation? Is this something that David Mirkovic has to be on him the entire time? Is this a situation where you can trust Tomislav Ivisic to be on Tarris Reed down there? That is going to be one I'm going to be looking for from the very beginning. How does Illinois match up against Tarris Reed? What does it look like? And then we'll try to figure it out from there. Even if Tarris Reed has a good rebounding day, I don't think he's going to get, 27 against Furman. He's going to get 27. But this is definitely an area that Illinois is going to have to take care of, because Illinois this season is 1-5 when they lose the rebounding battle. So even if they lose it, still make it close, and I think you're okay. But if they're able to contain Tarris Reed, I like their chances here.
Yeah, I think you used the right verbiage there too, contain. I think Tarris has been the MVP of the tournament so far, so I don't think you're going to stop him from producing. He's just a really good basketball player, plain and simple, and he's got the size that and the physicality that could mess with the Ivisics at some point. But if you can keep him honest when he's playing defense, like I said, have him run around and chase David or Tommy at the 3-point stripe, I think that'll be a good game plan for Illinois. It's funny you picked a matchup or what you perceive to be possibly a bad matchup as your other disadvantage, because that's what I'm doing as well, except not Tarris, but Alex Karaban. If you take a look at his stats coming into this game, he had 22 points against Furman, he had 27 against UCLA, and he had 17 points against Michigan State. He struggled a little bit against Duke, but Karaban's the one guy who, when I watch him play, I'm not sure who's going to be the one who's chasing him around. He's a little, if there's a flaw that the Illini bigs have, is that they're not exactly good at, side-to-side defense and chasing guys around. And so I think you're going to be switching a lot to chase him around, but he's the guy who's shooting more and more outside shots. He's 4 for 9 against Furman, 4 for 8 against UCLA, 3 for 8 against Michigan State. He shot 6 3-pointers against Duke. I think that's going to be one of the main focal points of the Yukon Huskies on Saturday. I think they're going to try to get Karaban as many open 3-point shots as they can, and if he starts connecting on those, well, then we're going to have to see Brad Underwood and Cameron Crocker and see what kind of adjustments that they have up their sleeve.
Yeah, it's one of the main reasons why I'm curious what this Tarris Reed matchup looks like, because I do think there's an aspect of this. It's like, okay, just put David on him and you'll be fine. But if you do that, then you're having, Big T or Big Z chase Karaban around. And I do think Big Z probably has a better opportunity with that. I think he has a little bit better perimeter defense. He still struggles getting around those screens and stuff like you mentioned there. If nothing else, just because of the length and how he's able to be out there and chase a guy like Karaban down. So going to be very interesting how this one plays out. 2 interesting matchups with the bigs there of this UConn team. Overall, can't wait to see how this game plays out. I think that we've done a pretty good job of covering some advantages and disadvantages here. Sonny, do you have any final thoughts?
No, again, the game can't come soon enough, but again, the coverage here is not going to stop. So make sure you've hit the like button on this video. Make sure you are subscribed to the channel, because JR and I, we're going to produce at least one new video every single day before that game on Saturday, and we'll have post-game recaps. And of course, I've already got a couple of names that Illini fans should be paying attention to when it comes to the transfer portal. JR and I will tackle that as soon as the season's over as well.
For sure. As we know, the transfer portal is where you basically build your team nowadays. You can retain your guys, but you're always going to add some key players through there. So it's going to be very interesting. We have plans to possibly do a mailbag episode later on in the week, right before the game. So if you have any questions or anything you want Sonny and I to discuss, we can do a episode with just like 4 or 5 questions. You can email them to us. You can put them in the comment section below, whatever you would like to do. Send us those and we will do that for you. And then finally on Saturday, we will release our Saturday morning preview and prediction for the game. We've been talking about this game a whole lot here, but we'll finally give you our predictions on Saturday morning. We'll have it released there. So we appreciate you being here. Have a good one. Check out Talk Illini, more of our videos. Check out Orange and Blue News of the On3 Network, and we'll see you next time. Have a good one.